William Faulkner said something to the effect of, well, Ernest has never been accused of sending anyone to the dictionary in any of his writing. And then Hemingway said, like, ha, poor Bill thinks that big words mean big ideas. You're listening to The Cultured Bumpkin, a literature podcast with Jake Phillips, where we present audiobook quality readings of the classics for your enjoyment. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, just because you're a bumpkin doesn't mean you can't be cultured. Hello and welcome to The Cultured Bumpkin. Today I wanted to compare the opening sentence of two famous writers from the 20th century, William Faulkner and Ernest Hemingway. Faulkner was known for his wordiness a lot of the time, and Ernest Hemingway was known for a lot of times how short and concise he would write. And so I wanted to sort of compare them side by side so that you'll hear the difference. And now you may be very well read on both of them, and this means nothing to you. But maybe you haven't. Maybe you're like me and like, you know what, I never really heard them side by side, and that is a big difference. Now, I will say these guys are absolute classic writers, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but they are very different. And so I'll start with Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea, which, by the way, is a great starting point if you've never read any of Hemingway's work. It's very short. If you're an average speed, or you read at an average speed, you can finish it in a couple hours at the most. It's really short. It's a good way to dip your toes into the Ernest Hemingway waters kind of thing. Here is the opening sentence to The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. He was an old man who fished alone in a skiff in the Gulf Stream, and he had gone 84 days now without taking a fish. All right, so that's your Old Man and the Sea, Ernest Hemingway. Pretty straightforward. He gets right to the point. Old man, sea, boat, wouldn't catch any fish. Okay. Now here is William Faulkner and his Absalom. From a little after 2 o'clock until almost sundown of the long, still, hot, weary, dead September afternoon, they sat in what Miss Coldfield still called the office, because her father had called it that. A dim, hot, airless room with the blinds all closed and fastened for 43 summers, because when she was a girl, someone had believed that light and moving air carried heat and that dark was always cooler, and which, as the sun shone fuller and fuller on that side of the house, became latticed with yellow slashes full of dust motes, which Quentin thought of as being flecks of the dead, old, dried paint itself blown inward from the scaling blinds as wind might have blown them. That was the first sentence to Absalom by William Faulkner. Two great storytellers, two completely different writing styles. Fascinating. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed that comparison if you haven't done that yourself before. And thank you very much for listening. You've been listening to The Cultured Bumpkin, a literature podcast with Jake Phillips. Thank you very much for listening. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, would you mind going and subscribing and leaving a nice review on whatever podcast platform you heard this on? I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.